Imagine the thunderous crack of bone hitting bone, a sound like a sledgehammer striking a concrete wall, echoing through the dense forests of North America 66 million years ago. Emerging from the dust and ferns is a creature that defies the classic image of a peaceful plant-eater. It possesses a skull 9 inches thick, a solid helmet of bone designed for high-impact warfare. For decades, we viewed it as a simple-minded herbivore that spent its days knocking heads. However, the reality revealed by the latest scientific research is far more terrifying and complex. Possessing the binocular vision of a predator and serrated teeth that suggest a taste for flesh, this is Pachycephalosaurus wyomingensis. It was not just a headbutter, it was a specialized gladiator that reigned at the very edge of the world's end. The journey to uncover the truth about Pachycephalosaurus began as a mystery of fragments. In 1859, the legendary geologist Ferdinand van de Veer Heyden discovered the first remains near the head of the Missouri River. These were merely small pieces of bone, and at the time, they were so alien to science that they were misidentified as belonging to an ancient reptile related to lizards. It took nearly a century for the scientific community to realize they were looking at a brand new lineage of dinosaurs. The definitive breakthrough came in 1940 when William Winkley discovered a complete massive skull in Montana. This specimen revealed the full, astonishing scale of the animal's dome. Paleontologists Barnum Brown and Erich Maren Schleicher officially named the genus Pachycephalosaurus, derived from Greek words meaning thick-headed lizard. They realized that this was a late surviving master of its environment, a creature that lived in the famous Hell Creek Formation alongside titans like Tyrannosaurus rex and Triceratops. The fossils were primarily found in the western interior of North America, stretching from South Dakota to Wyoming. For a long time, only skulls were known to science. The bone of the dome was so dense and durable that it survived the million-year journey through the earth, while the rest of the skeleton often crumbled into dust. This created a lopsided view of the animal, where researchers focused almost entirely on the head, leaving the rest of its body a skeletal ghost for many years. The most iconic feature of Pachycephalosaurus is the massive bony dome atop its skull. In a fully grown adult, this dome could reach a thickness of 25 centimeters, which is nearly 10 inches of solid, high-density bone. This is the thickest skull relative to body size of any known animal in Earth's history. For decades, the primary debate in paleontology was whether the dinosaur used this dome for headbutting. Early researchers, influenced by the behavior of modern bighorn sheep, imagined two males charging at each other at high speeds, colliding head-on to decide who would lead the herd. However, in the late 1990s, some scientists questioned this. They argued that the internal structure of the bone was too spongy, and that the rounded shape of the dome would cause the heads to slide off each other, potentially snapping the dinosaur's neck. This skepticism was challenged in 2025 by a revolutionary study that utilized high-resolution CT scans and statistical analysis of skull pathologies. Researchers discovered that 22% of all Pachycephalosaur domes examined showed signs of trauma, including lesions and infections consistent with repeated high-impact collisions. These injuries were clustered at the apex of the dome, the exact point that would make contact during a fight. Furthermore, the study revealed that the dome was likely covered in a thick layer of keratin, the same material as a rhino's horn. This keratinous sheath would have acted as a shock absorber, distributing the force of the blow across the skull and preventing the bone from shattering. One of the most controversial chapters in the history of Pachycephalosaurus is the theory of extreme cranial ontogeny. In the mid-2000s, paleontologists Jack Horner and Mark Goodwin proposed a radical idea that changed how we classify the dinosaurs of Hell Creek. They suggested that two other named dinosaurs, Dracorex hogwartsia and Stygimoloch spinifer, were actually just younger versions of Pachycephalosaurus. Dracorex, with its flat, spike-covered head, was reinterpreted as a juvenile. Stygimoloch, which possessed a smaller dome and massive horns at the back of its skull, was seen as a subadult or teenager. As the animal matured, the spikes would gradually recede or be absorbed into the bone, and the dome would swell upward until it reached the massive, rounded helmet of the adult Pachycephalosaurus. This theory was backed by bone histology, which showed that the bones of Dracorex and Stygimoloch were still rapidly growing and filled with blood vessels, while the domes of Pachycephalosaurus were dense and mature. This discovery proved that these dinosaurs went through a dramatic physical transformation as they aged, a process that likely signaled social rank and reproductive maturity to others in the herd. While the head is the star of the show, the rest of the Pachycephalosaurus skeleton reveals an animal built for stability and power. It was a bipedal dinosaur standing on two powerful hind legs and reached lengths of about 4.5 meters. Its weight is estimated at nearly 450 kilograms, making it a substantial presence on the Cretaceous floodplains. The torso was remarkably barrel-shaped, featuring a broad rib cage and very wide hips. This wide stance provided a low center of gravity, which was essential for maintaining balance during combat. If a Pachycephalosaurus were to deliver or receive a blow, it needed a solid foundation to prevent being knocked over. The tail was another marvel of engineering. It was held rigid by a complex system of ossified tendons that formed a basket-like structure. This stiffness prevented the tail from whipping around wildly during high-speed runs and acted as a counterbalance for the heavy, bone-laden head. Some scientists have even suggested that the dinosaur could use its tail as a third leg to prop itself up during fights, similar to how modern kangaroos balance themselves. For over 100 years, Pachycephalosaurus was classified as a strict herbivore. Its back teeth were small and leaf-shaped, perfect for grinding through soft plants, seeds, and fruits. However, a stunning discovery in 2018 of a complete jaw changed this perception forever. At the front of the jaw, paleontologists found sharp, serrated, blade-like teeth that were strikingly similar to those of carnivorous theropods. This indicates that Pachycephalosaurus was likely an omnivore. While it primarily ate vegetation, it was also capable of catching and eating small mammals, lizards, and perhaps even the hatchlings of other dinosaurs. These sharp front teeth would have been used to grip and tear flesh, providing the dinosaur with essential protein during its rapid growth spurts. This revelation moved the dinosaur away from the peaceful grazer archetype and into the role of a versatile, opportunistic feeder that could hold its own in a dangerous ecosystem. Life for a Pachycephalosaurus was dictated by social competition. The high incidence of skull injuries suggests that these dinosaurs engaged in frequent ritualized combat. While head-on collisions were possible, many scientists now believe they practiced flank butting. In this scenario, two rivals would stand side by side or at an angle and slam their domes into each other's ribs or hips. The barrel-shaped rib cage would have acted as a shield, protecting the internal organs from the force of the strike. The elaborate spikes and knobs surrounding the dome also served a purpose beyond combat. They were likely used for visual display. Vibrant skin, or even feathers, may have covered these structures, allowing a male to signal his health and status from a distance. A large, unblemished dome was the ultimate sign of a successful warrior, potentially allowing high-ranking males to win disputes without ever having to throw a blow. This complex social structure suggests a level of intelligence and communication that we are only beginning to understand. Pachycephalosaurus lived in one of the most famous and dangerous environments in history, the Hell Creek Formation. This was a world of humid floodplains and dense river forests, where the competition for survival was absolute. It shared its habitat with the legendary Triceratops, the armored Ankylosaurus, and the duck-billed Edmontosaurus. However, the greatest threat was the king of the tyrants, Tyrannosaurus rex. A Pachycephalosaurus would have been a prime target for a hungry rex, but it was not an easy kill. With its wide-set, forward-facing eyes, it possessed excellent binocular vision, allowing it to spot movement and judge distances with the precision of a predator. Its speed and agility would have been its primary defense, allowing it to dart through the thick undergrowth where a massive rex would struggle to follow. If cornered, a well-placed blow from its dome could potentially break the leg or ribs of a smaller predator, buying the dinosaur enough time to escape. How did the brain survive a collision that could shatter stone? The secret lies in the orientation of the spine. In Pachycephalosaurus, the neck was held in a slight S-curve, but during a charge, the animal would tuck its chin and align its head, neck, and back in a perfectly straight line. This allowed the force of the impact to be transmitted directly from the skull, through the neck, and into the heavy torso and tail. The brain itself was quite small, and was housed in a reinforced cavity deep beneath the dome. It was surrounded by a generous amount of cerebrospinal fluid, which acted as a natural shock absorber. This specialized anatomy ensured that while the bone of the dome might show the scars of battle, the vital neural tissues remained protected. It was a masterpiece of biological suspension, allowing the dinosaur to weaponize its own head without suffering permanent brain damage. While we have no direct skin impressions of Pachycephalosaurus, we can make educated guesses based on its relatives. As a member of the Marginocephalia, the same group that includes the horned dinosaurs, it was likely covered in tough, scaly skin. However, many paleontologists now argue that small, bristle-like feathers or quills may have been present along the spine or tail. These quills would not have been for flight, but for communication and display. Imagine a Pachycephalosaurus with a crown of vibrant, colorful quills surrounding its ivory dome, using them to intimidate a rival or attract a mate. This bird-like appearance is becoming more common in modern reconstructions, moving us further away from the gray, leathery monsters of early cinema and toward a more vibrant, living creature. The era of the thick-headed lizards came to a sudden, cataclysmic halt 66 million years ago. Pachycephalosaurus was among the very last dinosaurs to walk the Earth. It witnessed the arrival of the massive asteroid that struck the Yucatan Peninsula, triggering a global firestorm and a nuclear winter that lasted for years. The collapse of the food chain hit the large specialists the hardest. As the vegetation died out and the mammals they occasionally preyed upon became scarce, the Pachycephalosaurus populations dwindled. They were survivors of countless battles, but they could not fight the changing climate. When the dust finally settled, the bone-headed gladiators were gone, leaving only their incredible rock-hard domes to tell the story of their violent reign. The study of Pachycephalosaurus is more than just a search for old bones. It is a study of the limits of biology. It shows us how nature can evolve specialized armor to protect the most delicate organ, the brain. It challenges our understanding of dinosaur diversity, proving that one species can look like 3 different animals depending on its age. The discovery of its potentially omnivorous diet serves as a reminder that science is always self-correcting. We must always be prepared to throw away old labels when new evidence emerges. Pachycephalosaurus was a pioneer, a creature that pushed the boundaries of combat, social behavior, and diet. It remains one of the most fascinating and enigmatic figures of the prehistoric world, a true titan of the Hell Creek. Pachycephalosaurus was the ultimate gladiator of the Cretaceous, an animal that weaponized its own anatomy to survive in a world of giants. From its 9-inch thick helmet to its surprising taste for meat, it was a creature of incredible specialization and resilience. It reminds us that the past was not a place of simple monsters, but a world of complex animals fighting for dominance in an unforgiving environment. If you are ready to continue exploring the deep-dive stories of the most incredible creatures to ever walk the earth, please consider subscribing to this channel. Your support allows us to continue bringing the latest scientific evidence and the drama of the prehistoric world to life. Tell us in the comments, do you think the dome was primarily for headbutting, or was its visual appearance even more important for its survival?